All right, so I made the video. I'm just going to preface this video by kind of summarizing it quick for you guys. If your car doesn't start, right, it's the battery of the starter. If your car cranks but doesn't start, it's not the battery or the starter. I have friends who they'll have that happen, and it's obviously like a fuel issue, or happens more with like older vehicles. It can't happen with new vehicles, but more so with like the older vehicles. If a sensor's bad or something, it'll turn over, the battery's working, the starter's working, and then it won't fire. So that's a separate issue. That's spark or fuel or something like that. But if you're sitting there and you're getting like a click or no click, you turn the key and it does nothing, it's going to be, most likely, it's going to be a battery or a starter issue, and that's what this video is about. If you're sitting there and the car turns over but doesn't crank, which is that, if it's doing that, this video is not for you. This is not, that's like I said, that's fuel, or depending on gasoline or diesel, it's a fuel or ignition issue. So that's not for you. So find another video. That has nothing to do with the battery or the starter. I mean, there's situations where it could, but it's not likely. So move on. This video is for a battery issue or a starter issue where you get that click noise. Okay, so if that's you, keep watching. So who's gone out to their car and had this happen before? Oh, not all the lights are showing up. Maybe you got one there. Normal stuff's not coming on. Click, click, okay. Click. So if your car is doing this, turn the key, one light, not all of them, or maybe all of them show up. That doesn't really matter. And then you turn the key and you get a click like that, okay? 90% of the time, it's gonna be the battery. Obviously the battery is dead right here. I had a friend last week who had the same problem, and he tried jumping it. He had a pair of jumper cables that did the same thing, so he moved to it being a bigger problem. That's not always the case. If you are having this issue and you have somebody jump your car and it doesn't make it better, don't think it's not the battery. Okay, jumper cables, when they sit, they become less effective because of the resistance, the corrosion in the cables, okay? If you want to know if that does happen and you want to know for sure, or if you're just like in a parking lot and you can't get a battery and you're having somebody jump you, okay? Disconnect, you might need some tools, some pliers, disconnect the cables from the battery terminals, pull them out, okay? And hook up the jumper cables to the cables here while they're disconnected from the battery. That completely bypasses the battery, which if you have a bad cell or something like that, hooking up jumper cables to the battery won't do anything, okay, because the battery's defective and it's killing the circuit. So if you go to start the truck and it's doing the click there when you go to start it, first thing's the battery, try to jump it. If that doesn't work, don't just move on to something else or call a tow, okay? Try pulling these off the battery and hooking up the jumper cables to these cables, disconnected from the battery, because obviously the battery's bad and it's doing something funky. So usually that'll work. 90% of the time you have a battery issue. The other 10% of the time that I've seen, or I should say 9% of the time, it's a starter, okay? But if you have a bad starter, right, what it'll do is you'll come in here and you can almost tell right away. Like when I turn the ignition here, I got one light, okay? And then I'll turn on, this isn't working. You can see these lights are really dim. Obviously I have a low power issue. If it's the starter, everything will illuminate. This will be nice and bright. Your radio will work. The blower, you can turn up to high speed. If all that works and you turn and you get a loud click, like a very loud like clicking noise, whether it's one click or like a bunch of clicks, Usually, again, this is after you've checked the battery, making sure the terminals are tight, okay? It can't hurt to, I should have said this first, but it never hurts to come over here and just wiggle them, okay? And if you hear like a crackling noise, they're loose. Tighten them. Your problem should be fixed. But if you get all those lights lighting up and all the blower's working and the radio works and everything works and the headlights aren't dim and you still get that click, the next thing you're going to move on to is the starter. It's probably your starter. Now, I'm not going to get under here and show it to you. Cars have starters in all different locations. Some of them are in like really bad spots. But it's underneath the car, and this is kind of like, this isn't a video on how to replace a starter. It's just to let you know that if this is what's going on with your car, it's probably going to be a starter. Get it towed to a shop, have them look at it. So it's not going to be as simple as getting a battery or a jump. But for those other, that other 90% of the time, when you have the situation that I'm showing you here, it's just your battery. I had a friend say, I tested the battery, it said it was 12 volts, it's good. So he then went on and just replaced the starter. Well, he replaced the starter and it did the same thing, just like my truck's doing, click. So what'd he do? He went and he got another starter, told the parts store it was bad, spent 2 hours, put it in again. Went in the truck, click. So what happened was he had somebody test the battery for voltage, not for amperage. So your battery has voltage and amperage. So just because you have 12 volts or 11 volts or 13 volts, doesn't mean the battery's good. That'll help you with like a light, like the low amperage stuff. But when it comes to the high amperage stuff, like turning the motor over, if you have no or low amperage in your battery, it's not gonna, your truck's not gonna start. It's just gonna, the amperage that it does have is going to deadhead at the starter, and that's that click that you hear. Okay, so just because you have 12 volts doesn't mean your battery's good. Okay, so start with it 90% of the time, it's the battery. The other 9%, it's the starter. And then I say I leave that 1% for times when this same scenario is going on and it's like a bad ground. I've had that happen sometimes too. But for those of you that are at home right now or stuck in a parking lot or something, and you're in the car and it's just doing that click, the telltale sign that it is a battery, even if someone's jumping you right now and it's not helping. Okay, the telltale sign that it definitely is a battery is no dash lights, right? Dim interior lights, none of the accessories are really working. Okay, the dinging noise that you usually hear is really faint. It's your battery. Okay, if the jump isn't working, disconnect the cables from the battery, hook the jumper cables directly to the cables, these two cables. Bypass that battery completely. Once the car starts, put them back carefully, put these back, tighten them, and get yourself to an AutoZone or somewhere where you can get a battery and they can throw it in for you. Okay, but if you're here, if you're in your driveway right now scratching your head thinking, my car is dead, I know it's the battery, the jump isn't working, before you move on to greater stuff or getting the car towed to a garage, just honestly either just buy a battery or just help yourself and disconnect these from the battery and just hook up your jumper cables from the other car, right, from wherever it is, to these cables off of the battery. And just do that. My friend did that last week and he spent all this time and money on the starter and all it was the battery. Okay, so that's why I'm making this video. And then today I was gone for a week and I get home and my battery's dead, so I figure it's a good time to make the video. Okay, so any questions, comment? I'm gonna jump this thing and get it going now because it's the battery.